Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Ukrainian talk show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star. I'm in Warsaw, Poland, and from there I'm doing this broadcast. And with me are Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you, Sasha. Glad to be here as always.
Yeah, but you're not in Poland, right?
That's true, and I
Oh,
am
okay.
giving thanks for that. Thank you. I do not care to be that much closer.
However, Ivan
However,
Chereva, he is in
aha,
Kiev,
yes,
Ukraine.
yes,
Welcome to the
he's right in the
program.
middle of it.
Hello, Sasha. Hello, Jonathan. Glad to see you today, Sasha. So close to Ukraine. Hopefully, you will visit Ukraine as
I'm
well.
very, very close. And on my next visit to Europe, I really hope to be in Ukraine and particularly in Kiev and my Odessa. I really hope so. Actually, I was studying if there is a possibility to visit Ukraine now while I'm in Poland. And it's very complicated. A lot airlines are not flying to Ukraine, obviously. So the closest point where they fly regular flights is Chisinau, Moldavia. And from Moldavia, you have to take a train to Odessa, but that's very risky enterprise because it goes through Tiraspol, which is part of a territory occupied by Russians in
Hmm.
Moldavia. So this is very risky situation, unfortunately. However, what's happened in the last few days? Had finally this great phone call yesterday from Trump to Putin. And so Putin said that, according to what I just gathered, that yes, he's willing to do the ceasefire. However, there are certain conditions
Hmm. Gee,
they
such as
have
your
to be
complete
met.
surrender.
Some, yeah. If that comes with a complete surrender, then he will definitely stop and he will initiate ceasefire,
Surrender,
provide
surrender,
people
and
will
surrender, and
surrender.
we'll stop. Yeah.
So what Trump exactly? They were talking about for 2 hours. So okay, we understand what Putin says. Now, can you tell us what Trump says? Dear Vladimir, okay, I appreciate your proposal, and then what? Ivan, maybe you know some.
I really don't know what they were talking about. Probably Putin was implementing his KGB agent actions to put Trump on his side, but everything shows that Trump is already on his side. So he had to put no much efforts to do so and to tell his vision of future cooperation and trade between United States and Russia, and to make a great deal, great business, and all that bullshit. And also, as far as I heard, that um, uh, Putin cried to Trump that he prevented Ukrainian attacks on Moscow on May 7th before the so great holiday for him, like Victory Day, and his forces, his air defense destroyed like 500 drones and Storm Shadow missiles and blah blah blah, and all this bullshit. I just don't know what Trump said to him, but he found this conversation very good for him, and it's a really great surprise because Ukraine, because European allies actually waited for some pressure from Trump towards Putin, like frightening him with possible sanctions in case they will not go to this ceasefire agreement, and in case they will continue their aggression of Ukraine. But he did nothing of that, and it's just like um, probably it was for Trump a great talk of two good fellows. But what is important that one of those fellows is a war criminal. So it can be a great talk of fellows, either war criminals as fellows for Trump are okay, or as business partners. I don't know.
Putin starts his meetings with the 2 hours lecture about Pechenegi and Polovtsy. And I think he could go further than that. He could go to original sin of killing of Jesus Christ. It's unclear who killed him, the Romans or the Israelis, or how it happened. It's depends who
Yeah.
believes
Well,
what.
the killing of Jesus Christ, from the Christian perspective, that was all in God's plan anyway. It was intended on the part of God.
Absolutely.
So the Jews are not to blame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at
Well,
least after those negotiations, so-called negotiations in Istanbul between the Russian delegation and the Ukrainian one, we've
oh,
discovered who in Russia is responsible for their version of history. It's Medinsky. He is head of Russian Historical Society, and after that meeting in Istanbul, he invented another fake quote from Bismarck. Saying that Bismarck
okay.
said that you should never fight Russians because Russians are so powerful. But the reason, but the real picture is that Bismarck didn't ever said
No.
such things.
I don't
Bismarck
think that
did say, as
Bismarck,
I remind you, Bismarck did say there is a providence which looks out for drunkards, children, and the United States of America. He couldn't believe it, and it's still kind of hard to believe in this day and age, but that's what it
I
is.
hardly can believe that Bismarck, who was a great historian and strategist, could say something like this when in 1864, Russia was defeated completely by English, French, and Turkish forces. It was like absolutely like run over. They lost Sevastopol and Crimea, and it was a mess because these countries were so much advanced technologically compared to Russia. So it was just a one-way street, and why Bismarck would say,
other than the charge of the Light Brigade, Russia did not have very many good moments in that war.
And in that war, they didn't even have donkeys. So I'm wondering how
their logistics system was non-existent.
I really enjoy, what's program? One of the Ukrainian programs I saw, a real time. There is, the Russians are using now motorcycles and bicycles. And they're using like in small groups, like 3-4 people. They're going one after another. So the one is killed, and another one is taking the lead. Then he's killed, and the third one is taking the lead, and there is no one taking the lead because all of them are being killed. And they show how it's happening. So Ukrainian snipers, so not snipers, but the drone operators. So they can see this for bicycles or motorcycles, doesn't matter. So one says to another, okay, so you're going to start with the first and I will take second. Okay, no, let me take first, guy, and you take second, and I take third, and okay, so they're talking about who is taking what. So finally they agreed. Bam, 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 there are no bicycles, there are no motorcycles.
So Sasha, how the Russian army is performing now is starting to remind me of that story, possibly apocryphal, a conversation between the Swiss military attaché before World War I and Kaiser Wilhelm. And the Swiss military attaché was talking about how Switzerland had a militia of 50,000 men, all crack sharpshooters. And
they have Swiss knives.
And Kaiser Wilhelm said, well then, what would you do if I were to invade your country with an army of 100,000 men? And the Swiss attaché replied, then, Your Majesty, we would all have to shoot twice.
That's a good point. Ivan, you have a movie to show us. Maybe we should.
Actually, a really nice movie we can watch today about what Ukrainians are thinking about all those Trump initiatives and all his words. So we can just watch it right now.
Okay.
This battle. We have about 5,000 young people a week that are dying in that ridiculous war. What a mess. What a horrible, bloody mess.
Right now, we're in a trench in Ukraine where soldiers here are defending their home against Russian aggression. But this conversation isn't about what's happening on the battlefield. Right now, it's about what's being said thousands of kilometers away and how those words echo what's going on in the trenches here.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
US President Donald Trump has once again shocked many in Ukraine with his recent statements. His remarks range from openly threatening President Zelensky to suggesting that Ukraine was never going to be a member of NATO.
He wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. He understands that.
In the past few days alone, he warned that Ukraine would face big problems if it backed out of a rare earth minerals deal with the US. He also posted online attacking Zelensky personally and implying that Ukraine is dragging its feet in peace negotiations. Trump also repeated a familiar line, that famous quote,
You would have never had that war if I were president. I guarantee you that.
But Ukrainians, they remember the truth. The war started in 2014. It didn't start under the Biden administration. It didn't start in 2022. This war has been going on for over a decade through multiple US administrations. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has responded by stressing that any agreement, especially involving national resources, must go through legal procedures and the Ukrainian parliament. As he put it, Ukraine is not for sale. The situation is very complex, but one thing is clear. For those fighting every day, these words from Washington, especially the ones that echo Russian aggression, they don't go unnoticed by the people here. So today we're asking, what do frontline soldiers think of Trump's latest rhetoric? People here are quite apprehensive of talking about, American politics, Donald Trump and all of that. So right now they took us to this location. They're flying drones around just to patrol the border. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get them to talk. There's been talks of a ceasefire. Do you feel that at all?
The ceasefire is just talk. Russian drones are still flying, and Ukrainian territory is still being shelled.
In order for the war to end in about 24 hours from now, what needs to be done, in your opinion?
Ending the war in one day, that could only be a political decision.
Donald Trump has said that he can end the war in 24 hours. Do you think he's a politician that can do that?
I don't know. Probably not capable. As we've seen, his promises don't mean much.
So if the US stopped support and Ukraine had less support than before, would you keep fighting?
Yes, of course. We'll keep defending Ukraine no matter the cost, with or without help.
Here on the grounds, there's no easy off-ramp. There's no quick fix. While diplomacy, it does matter, but also it matters what our politicians are saying thousands of kilometers away, especially when it seems to undermine those here defending democracy. This is Ukraine's front line, where every word matters. Once again, this is Corey reporting from Kyiv Post. Za перемогу.
Very revealing and informative video. Thank you. Thank you, Ivan.
Yeah, really good one. It's very frustrating, actually, that first of all, I didn't expect in his election campaign that Trump will take the issue with ending the war in Ukraine, especially in 24 hours. It was like down the line, if you take inflation, take economy, and so many immigration, and so many other important things, Ukraine, in the eyes of probably most Americans, was number 15 issue, if not below that. All of a sudden, today, it became number one issue. Nobody talks anymore about economy or inflation or anything like this because it's so bad that there's nothing to talk about. So now Ukraine. So here, for Trump, all of a sudden, like a side issue, it became now, probably the crucial issue, because if he's talking for months about ending the war and he can't do it, he just can't deliver. It's like he's like like a impotent man who sees a beautiful girl, but he cannot do anything about it. So he's looking at the girl.
That's a rather interesting analogy, Sasha. But yeah, I would say that President Trump right now, it must be in a very frustrated state of mind, because he has believed up to this point, because he's not a traditional politician, he has believed up to this point that deals are always possible. Yeah, that is his mindset, that diplomacy reinforced with economics and being willing to be tough on certain areas in order to gain concessions in return. That has been his modus operandi up to this point. Now he is confronted, as you and I have discussed, he is confronted with an opponent who does not believe in compromise, who sees compromise as, in effect, mutual surrender. And mutual surrender is distasteful to the Russian mindset. And that is why they have been continually stating their maximalist position, expecting the other side to yield, and buttressed by the brandishing of his nuclear arsenal. Again, expecting the other side to yield. Go ahead.
I think it goes deeper than that. The main misunderstanding for Trump, who was born and raised in a pure capitalistic society, as it's possible to imagine, his issue is money or business is everything. All the rest is
kind of like Herbert Hoover. The business of America is business back in 1930s.
Right.
Yeah,
but not so in Russia, and never been so in Russia. Russia is a country of tsars, no democracy whatsoever. People are so belittled that they don't have their own voice and never had.
And
so why Putin needs all these wonderful commercial projects offered by Trump?
It means nothing to him.
What it has to do with Putin? Putin is incredibly rich. He doesn't have to worry about becoming even richer.
Right.
So the country will become rich. Russia will never be rich. It will never happen in our
correct. You're quite correct.
And he has no motivation whatsoever.
Yeah, he doesn't understand that the Russians have no concept of a contract either.
No,
it's not possible. No. Yeah, and that's why it is so difficult, or even problematic, for American companies to try to do business with Russians in the sense that the Americans understand it. So, because from the Russian mindset, contracts are like eggshells made to be broken. So, yeah, that's just the way it goes down. So it's a clash of mindsets. President Trump is being educated, shall we say, reluctantly and much against his will. He is being educated by reality. And he's also being educated by the fact that the Russians cannot achieve on the battlefield what Vladimir Putin thinks they can achieve, and they cannot achieve the conquest of Ukraine or even the defeat of Ukraine, and much less the defeat of NATO. And the rest of Europe is standing behind Ukraine and agreeing to keep. Go ahead.
Jonathan, I think if Trump would understand by now, and he's not a stupid man, so he had enough time to understand that all his carrots to Putin, they just don't work, because they don't represent carrots in Putin's eyes. Right. In Trump's eyes, yes, they're great juicy carrots, but not in Putin's eyes. So
to Putin, it's mean because Putin can order all the carrots he wants by fiat.
Absolutely. So if that strategy or part of strategy doesn't work, then he should try maybe something else. Ivan, what do you think he should try?
A swift kick in the butt?
If you're talking about Trump, then the answer is quite simple: more weapons to Russia and more sanctions, or more weapons to Ukraine and more sanctions on Russia, because Putin and as Russians, and this is actually a real quotation from the history, that Russians understand only power. They They don't understand those blah 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 from Donald Trump, and what Putin is doing. He's just trying to win some time, and in order to grab some more Ukrainian territories, in order to something to change, in order to make some of pro-Russian politicians to came in power in Europe, for those countries to stop assisting Ukraine, like he was hoping in Romania, when a lot of Russian efforts were put into promoting the pro-Russian candidate on presidential elections. Hopefully, Russia failed in on the elections in Romania, and the mayor of the Bucharest, of Romanian capital, who is pro-Western and pro-European, won the elections. But the difference between those two candidates was so low that probably next time Russia will be more lucky in some other country. And to do so, to do those kinds of hybrid attacks towards European countries, Putin needs more time. And he's getting more time in those negotiations with the United States, and those phone calls, in those special representative Witkov flying to Moscow and shaking hands with Putin and other Russian war criminals. And in this process, the United States, they're just acting on the side of Russia, because I just want to remind you that there was a great plan developed by European allies of Ukraine, by Great Britain, by Germany, France, and Poland, and which was announced by European leaders when they visited Kyiv on the May 10th. They announced that if Russia will not accept the 30 days ceasefire, which actually was proposed by Donald Trump, then great sanctions will be implemented towards Russia, and United States will join them. And after that, and that deadline is till the Monday, May the 10th. And before that day, Putin made an announcement that he's ready for some kind of direct peace negotiations with the Ukraine. And Donald Trump supported Putin. Instead of no, Volodymyr, no peace negotiations, just ceasefire after that, or sanctions, and after that, peace negotiations. That would be a right way for United States president to support European allies, to support Ukraine in their united statement towards ceasefire from Russia without any negotiations. Without any conditions, unconditional ceasefire. But Trump was with a great partner, not towards Ukraine.
Ambivalent and confusing.
Yeah.
I think Trump is so obsessed with the business side of his relationship with Putin and Russia, the great project, Arctic, and so on, that he's the little thing, the war between Russia and Ukraine, it's like a side issue. It's kind of
a sideshow,
and not even a great deal of a sideshow. And I mean, it's real nothing. He's signing deals worth $4 trillion in the Middle East with Qatar, which is country which made so much damage to Western civilization, and particularly United States, its institutions. It's so offensive that it smell test. It doesn't pass.
Yeah, it does pass the smell test or the giggle test. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. The
So
giggle.
I think he is acting alone, single-handedly against his Congress, his Senate, all European allies, the NATO, just anything. One man, he could circumvent the history of Western civilization. In the last 80 years, he's just taking it apart. He's destroying it, and he amassed so much power. He put down all his party men, Republicans who were just here. They're crawling. There's an animal fear of Trump among them, because if they will say a word, so Trump will, in next election, he will put another candidate who will defeat the one that who says something. So he will lose his $175,000 job and free parking at Dallas Airport in Washington. And they are so fearful of that they're crawling. They don't want to become little nothings like, for example, Nikki Haley for post-Trump when he was running for re-election. Where is Nikki Haley? She's one of the most talented politicians in the United States. Where is she?
Well,
Nowhere to be seen. I don't see her. Nobody sees her. She's out. Trump says, okay, she is persona non grata.
which one is this now? I didn't hear.
Nikki Haley.
Oh, Nikki Haley. Okay, yeah.
Nikki Haley. I'm talking about her. She became persona non grata, and until Trump is alive or in power, she will be nowhere. She will not get even secondary position in some maybe library or anywhere like this. She's ostracized, completely destroyed, and we'll wait until Trump will be out of power. That's their only chance. So this is a pathetic situation where one person can, for his own ulterior motives, which are unclear even now, he is completely destroying and redirecting, I would say, all U.S. diplomacy, Western diplomacy, and he's acting alone against his Congress and Senate and allies in Europe. I never seen anything like that, and never could.
Well, it's a fascinating thing to watch. I would just disagree on the course and outcome, of course, but also what we have overlooked here is the recent on the battlefield. Recently, the Ukrainians have repulsed several Russian attempts to maintain the offensive. It's still the correlation of military forces certainly is still moving against Russia and in favor of Ukraine. And again, as I've stated previously, there is still, I believe, an emerging opportunity for Ukraine at a time of its choosing to inflict that decisive counteroffensive. Again, I would argue in Crimea, where no one, I repeat, no one is expecting a counteroffensive against Crimea. No one's talking about it. They acknowledge the importance of Crimea, but they tend to think that, oh, that's not possible. I would argue there are enough historical parallels and examples of things which were not considered possible that actually took place and achieved operational, if not strategic, surprise. And
so
I have confidence in the Ukrainians to pull that off.
Do you think that something like that is possible while they are peace?
Oh yes.
Negotiations?
Oh yes, because Ukraine does not have to tell Washington or its allies necessarily what it is up to. They are smart enough and cagey enough to keep at least one or two of their cards concealed in this poker game. They will play them in my opinion, at the proper time in order to achieve the maximum effect. And that would be, in my opinion, a counteroffensive which would seal off Crimea and using a strategic reserve, which the Ukrainians appear to have built up enough force to create a strategic reserve for a counterattack, that this would enable them to force the surrender of the Russian occupiers of Crimea, because you notice they have also been conducting air attacks against Crimea and destroying air defenses and steadily isolating steadily isolating the Russian occupiers. So there is a possibility there. And again, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do have a high degree of confidence in the Ukrainian military's ability to pull off a decisive counteroffensive. And once that happens, that changes the game considerably.
Okay, I hope we will see that rather sooner than later.
Oh yes,
And, it will
especially
be
since
really,
we're coming into the summer, which is ideal would be ideal for a counteroffensive. So we're coming into the summer months, so no more obstruction.
Especially
Russians
in
still have
Crimea,
lousy-
when the water in the Black Sea will be a little bit warmer.
Oh yeah, there we go. Let's have our offensive into the Black Sea area. We can celebrate at the same time that we're retaking Crimea, and
We'll
watching
have
the
a
Russians Russians run.
there will be a big beach party. once
There you
it's
go.
happened. Thank you so much for today's program, and I hope we'll see you next week, same place, same time on Tuesday. Okay. Hopefully everybody will make it. I
Yeah,
will
sure.
try my best. Okay. Thank you so
Okay.
much, and Slava Ukraine.
God
Героям
bless
слава.
America.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Glory to Ukraine. Bye bye, everyone.
Yes. Well, Sasha.
Yeah,
Yesterday. Okay, just to summarize two things quickly. One, my opinion of yesterday's discussion on